All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here for episode 33 of Cage Side Convos. I'm Rick Huntsman.
What's good? This is Quince.
And we're coming to you guys live, as always, from we're coming to you live from Quince's kitchen this morning, in case you couldn't tell the difference by the background. The current state of affairs right now, the gym is currently closed, kind of riding everything out with this. And as we were kind of talking this morning about where we wanted the conversation to go, naturally kind of led to needing to make adjustments. And very quickly, yesterday everything seemed pretty normal, and then we got the word handed down for New York State that all the gyms and facilities and stuff like that were closed. So
restaurants, bars.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, and so that being done, we wrapped up classes last night, and then I went home and immediately found myself kind of with nothing to do. Normally Tuesday and Thursday mornings it's 5 o'clock. I'm up and I'm out doing stuff. Well, I didn't end up going to sleep until almost 4 o'clock this morning. Calls for some adjustments, I think, already.
Oh, absolutely. In almost blink of an eye at times. Because in regards to the gym or to bars and restaurants, these are places where people get together, and whether it's working out, whether you're making money, you know what I mean, or whether you're just getting together with friends, family, socializing, things like that. All of these situations all of a sudden come to a halt, and when that sort of change hits, you can either hit it like a wall, you know what I mean, which I think is kind of what happened last night to you, staying up till 4 in the morning.
Absolutely, man.
And certainly I go through it as well. I was just telling him earlier, I felt like I was all ready to adapt to this change, as far as limiting where you can go and who you can be around or how many you can be around. And I thought I was set. I set my whole studio up so it was functional to both make music and record music. Clean my place, got all my food and toilet paper, actually.
Oh, you got some of that?
I mean, just a pack. I didn't go too wild. But and I knew we were going to be off on Monday even before they dropped the whole ban against bars and restaurants. So I was all set for that day one moment on Monday, and I was looking forward to it almost. And then Monday hit, and the first thing I did, of course, was pick my phone up, and read the news. And I was telling him, not only read, was I trying to catch everything that was going on, but catching every live speech or event, from the president down to the governor, down to local, and it was nonstop all day long. Yeah. And before I knew it, it was noon, and then it was 5 o'clock, and then it was dark. And I realized I had done nothing that I had planned to do, nothing that I was ready to do or looking forward to doing. And so last night I was pretty distraught too. I felt like it was time wasted, and allowing myself to get caught up in the whirlwind and not, recognizing the potential of what can come from this change. Which I think is going to be different for everybody as far as what their responsibilities are and their needs. But for myself, I think it's a good, opportunity to, dive into my creative passions in whatever form that they may come. It's a good time to reconnect with friends and family, and and hear people out. And well, listen, this is what he hit me up asking what we should talk about today. And so I took some time early this morning when I got back from my run, took some time to write down what I felt was necessary, and sat down for like a half an hour. And this is, you probably can't see it from there. All I wrote was to slow down. I just got to slow down. I think we move at such a pace, and we want to get so many things done a day. And we're constantly on the go that all of a sudden when it comes to a halt, physically maybe you could do it, but the mind keeps moving. And it needs something to stimulate it. So I think that's why I was jumping into the news as much. and all the other things that stem from it. But I think one of my main focuses is just on slowing down and appreciate the need to change, the awareness to change.
Yeah.
And that's the first step on learning how to,
Yeah.
adopt those processes.
Yeah, that's huge, man. That's huge, absolutely. Definitely for me right now. Oddly enough, something that I hadn't thought of myself was slowing down. I kind of did the same thing yesterday. Got home. By the time I got home from town, it was 10:30.
Yeah.
And kind of got my groceries organized. And before I did really any of the regular nightly rituals, the things I do when I get home, I got on my phone and I started going through news sources, and I started having discussions on Facebook with people.
Sure.
And so instead of slowing down and letting myself calm down and breathe a little bit, I sped up and I started extrapolating and I started catastrophizing. I started playing worst case scenarios in my mind. And then instead of understanding that that's what I was doing, I let myself, slip into a depressive kind of mindset, and then I started playing games on my phone. I turned on Netflix. I just had a bunch of noise, a bunch of shit going on. And eventually, around 4 o'clock this morning is when I fell asleep, and was very restless in my sleep, and woke up today and came up here to chat with you, and was very out of sorts, and but it very much called into my mind the necessity to adjust to what's going on, and figure out some way to try to be productive, and some way to try to get my mind right, and some way to still be logical but compassionate, and still be, still stay connected, and still stay positive, and still stay forward thinking. One of the things is, I was actually thinking about this as we were getting set up, the beauty of having this kind of communication front, right? So we can sit here, we can go live, people can tune in, kind of engage with us right now, and for some of us for a while, this is going to be the only kind of engagement that we really get. But that's the positive side of it, and I think that me very specifically, I would be much better served to make sure that I'm utilizing this platform in a positive way. Instead of getting involved in perpetuating this kind of catastrophic mindset that's potential, because on the one hand saying, okay, we need to stay focused, we need to stay logical, we need to think about what we're doing right now, because if we conduct ourselves in a certain way, there are certain negative outcomes that could come from it. It's important to think about and understand that, but not be so fixated on it that you sit up until 4 o'clock in the morning, not distracting yourself from the thought patterns that you invoked on yourself, really. Sure.
Or just having your day fall apart completely. Because I'm in my phone and reading whatever or watching whatever I can, and I justify it by saying, oh, I'm just educating myself. So that allows me to slip further and further in. But really, what I'm doing is I am what's it called when you have responsibilities and you kind of turn a blind eye to them? Procrastinate. And I think there's another word I'll probably come up with in about an hour. But
shoot me a text later when you get it. We'll throw it in the show notes.
Right. But really, what I'm doing is I'm allowing myself to slip out of my patterns and get away from my responsibilities and get away from the things that I know help to balance me out. Because there is a part of it that is very necessary to stay aware of what's going on around you in the community, in the world, and right in your home. But it's also a responsibility to find a balance within the self first.
Right.
You know what I mean? Very little control as far as what goes on around you. Some days more than others, but every day, it's your responsibility to get find that balance within self, and whether it's physically or mentally or spiritually, these are the things that we can add to the world around us. Certainly if everyone is taking care of self first, self and family, and then neighbors and such, and it goes on from there. But I think it can't happen unless you help the self first, and and it's humbling to because we're on episode 33 now, and we talk a whole bunch of shit, and a lot of it is a lot of it comes from our personal changes in lifestyles and recognitions of the importance of certain characteristics and progressions, and you grow comfortable in that, and then something happens outside of yourself, and even now, you know, we are not exempt from having to start from day one again. You know, and not necessarily day one in the initial sense, you know what I mean? In the very first Stone Age sense of it, but day one at the very base level in which we are now. So, you know, even in this opportunity that we had, you know, to kind of share with Facebook and YouTube and whoever hops on, and, you know, even you, personal conversations, you know, it's the chance to break down what we know and what we thought we knew, and you know, again, how to adapt to the change and make it better. You know, put ourselves individually in a better, with a better foot forward, and then, you know, as we still find different ways to connect further on, you know, offer that same to them.
Yeah, and that's huge, man. You know, like I told you when we first started, we got together this morning and started chatting a little bit. I'm in a state of flux right now. You know, I'm in a state of mental reset, and going back to that, building self first. You know, and that's it. And we both know, we talk about it all the time. The very foundation of what we do is built off of having the best version of ourselves possible. Yeah. And part of that cycle is you start from the bottom, you build yourself up, but then you have to fall again. Mm-hmm. But every time you get a little bit better, you know, so overall it grows, it stacks on itself. You're never building from where you were the first day. You're building from day one. You're building from where you are here now. You know, you're building on your past experiences and stuff. But every time it collapses in on itself, it just builds a stronger foundation. You have to build up again. Yeah. And so right now I've been broken back down to my foundation. I'm in a point where I have to self-reflect, and I have to understand, what do I know? What am I good at? What are my strengths? What can I cultivate? What are the weaknesses that I still have that I've been overlooking that have allowed this collapse? Sure. And, you know, put me in this position where I have to rebuild now. Right. And a lot of that is on the self. You know, I have to reevaluate my outlooks on the world. I have to reevaluate how I interact with people. I have to understand, as hectic as my daily structure seems to be, that still daily I had a structure, and I realize now that as much as, you know, we talk about going with the flow, a lot of my life was built on the structure of the gym. I knew what my schedule was because that was the schedule of the gym, and that's what I worked around, and there was always small little changes here and there in that schedule, but overall that was my structure, that was my framework. As soon as that framework's gone, I freaked out a little bit. You know, so, which led me, while you were talking, I was kind of thinking the difference between going with the flow and knowing to adjust to change, right? So when we talked a couple weeks ago about what it meant to be in a flow state, and you mentioned how there was certain activities or certain things that you could do to put yourself into a flow state. Sure. Like, there are things when you get up in the morning, in the afternoon, before you go to bed, whatever, if you're about to endure a challenging engagement, understanding, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, that's going to release the conscious thought, and it's just going to let everything flow. For me, putting myself in a constant state of flow was being in the flow of the gym, knowing that every single day, guaranteed I was going to have the ability to make an impact on somebody. You know, my life was structured in such a way that the opportunity was there, and however I capitalized on it was up to me on whether I was able to actually make an impact or not, you know, but the possibility was still there, and that was guaranteed every single day, and that helped me flow. It was automatic. Now, adjusting to change, all of a sudden something comes in that I wasn't ready for, takes me out of that flow state, and now the structure is gone. And I have to figure out, okay, now if this structure is removed, how do I find my flow state in a completely new environment, in a completely unstructured, uncertain environment?
You know? And you don't really what do we got?
Little Alex Slurry chiming in.
Oh,
Happy St. Patrick's Day, brother. Absolutely. Hope you guys are out there staying safe. And
that is today, isn't it?
Yeah. Remember St. Patrick was Italian. St. Patrick was Italian. All right, Alex Slurry with the St. Patty's Day history lesson.
We'll have to fact check that.
Yeah.
We'll have to fact that. But I always appreciate you popping in, man.
Always, man.
We were just, he and I were just talking yesterday about finding, you know, that we're gonna have to change to right now.
Yeah.
But no matter what, we're gonna adapt and find a way to move forward, even if it's those little steps toward what we're trying to do. And you know, he's just another one of those forward-thinking individuals. That I appreciate having in the, you know, in the circle, in the group.
Absolutely.
But you know, and you were just talking about having your flow state be within the confines of a pre-organized structure.
Right.
And when I'm listening to you, the first thing that comes to mind is that you were one of several who helped to build that structure.
Right.
You know, from the ground up. So of course, in times like this, when you lose that structure, I mean, there's nothing else to do but to rebuild your own.
Right.
You know, and rebuild it in a way that will help guide you in the directions that you want to go in, and keep you from going in directions that you don't want to. You know, sometimes if you don't, have your life structured in certain ways, I can see all that energy, 100% like a laser going toward arguments on Facebook or something like that. You know, whereas other times being at the gym will kind of keep you off the. Keep you off the phone, things like that. Keep you in better company as far as who you share your energy and conversations with.
Well, and I mean, there's the physiological benefits of exercise in general. You know, you're there, you're training, you're sweating, endorphins are released. You know, you just feel better, so you're more inclined to have a more positive outlook on life. You know, and that puts me personally puts me back in a battle of understanding. All right, what's an emotional response? What's a logical response? How am I, maybe confusing the two from time to time? I almost said conflating, which I think is the right word, but then I got confused.
I'd have to Google that too.
So we'll add conflating, and we'll add St. Patrick's Italian research to the list of things to talk about later. But yeah, it's as much as you endeavor to build a structure in which you can flow and something you can rely on, inevitably it changes. Sure. You know, and that's a pretty stone cold reminder for me, is that no matter how reliable something is, everything is ephemeral, everything is temporary.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So making sure that I have structured internally what I can control enough that when things change, whatever happens, I'm willing to accept that it's changed and adjust my pattern of behavior accordingly to find productive and purposeful ways to conduct myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll utilize the gym to, for healthy purposes, get my workout in, get my exercise in. I'll go to the library so I can go pick out a couple books, sit up top on the second floor, and and just kind of peruse through it and read a little bit. And I'll go to the studio to get my work in, and be creative. And I have all these separate places where I could do one thing, and it's needed, because you go into this environment and you're like, okay, I step into the gym over at Top Team, and I'm like, okay, I'm here to train. We might be sparring that day. After that, we're gonna have a conversation on whatever we had kind of took our notes on, and that's the mind frame I'm in, and so forth and so on for the library, the studio, wherever else I'm at, and you find yourself in a situation like this, in which I've got a nice little place, but it's small, and I couldn't possibly to do all of those things, to find a way to get my exercise, to have it be the place where I then relax and read, or then where I have to be creative, writing music or just writing in general, and have it be just that one environment. I think it's tough at first. It's very tough to adapt to that change. And so I've slowly been trying to segment the place, into different areas in which would be conducive to whatever my needs may be. And even just those small steps, I think, are helping me to slow down and get a little bit more centered. So I'm not as dependent on other spots in other areas.
Very
because,
specific environment.
right.
Yeah.
Because really it's just that kind of a state of mind in which you get in. It's a frame of mind that you get in when you hop into the library or hop to the gym about what you want out of that. And I'm trying to keep that same, it's the same idea with the flow state.
Yeah.
You find what's easiest for you to get into it, and then you try and keep that feeling
Right.
and that thought with you and apply it in other places. So
Right.
I think that's what I've been doing, just applying it differently to different spots in my apartment, where I can still be productive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really awesome exercise, because just everybody knows what it's like to walk into a library. And the one here in town is pretty old.
Gorgeous though.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it's very segmented. There's tons of rooms, in there, especially on the second floor. And when you walk into an old building and there's old books, there's a very particular smell, and there's it's a kind of feels like the past. And it feels very calm. It feels very reflective. And it's very easy to find a place in there to be introspective and to sit and to let your mind be calm. So I like the idea of establishing that kind of same atmosphere, like putting in a concentrated effort to establish that same atmosphere at home,
right?
To find that same feeling, because you know what the feeling you want.
Yeah.
And so even just going through the motions, and I mean, I was joking around when I came in. We started talking about feng shui and all that, and I don't know a ton about that shit, but essentially how you have the objects arranged in your home to create that energy flow and that feeling, even if it's not specifically how things are arranged, just the mental process you're going through, and you're putting that kind of energy into arranging the space, and now you're cultivating that in yourself. You're eliciting that reaction, you're eliciting that flow state. So going through physical repetitions like that with the idea of eliciting a certain feeling, I think is absolutely going to be meditative to a certain extent.
Sure, because you're connecting all those senses together. That has a overall feeling or gravity to it. You're talking about the aesthetics of the library, the historical understanding of the books, and the smell of the books. So I mean, those are all intellectual or like I said, aesthetic or sensory recognitions that help you get into that zone a little bit quicker, and the mind does all that itself. So to understand things like that and to apply it to different situations, I think is kind of like is a little loophole. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, I mean, you say loophole, but is it really a loophole? Because I mean, you're going through like extra steps to make that happen. You know what I mean?
Only once, because once you understand that's how it works. Apply it to whatever scenario. But I mean, you're 100% right. But I think a lot of things that are practiced and are understood, and even a lot of the topics and conversations, once you want to speak like that, you learn to speak like that, and once you speak like that, now it's settled. Now that's part of from your prefrontal now to the old sensory or whatever part of the mind where it's automatic, and in the same vein of when we're starting from the base of now. All of that work and all that practice and conversation becomes the base of now. All that understanding of how the senses work to create that feeling of whatever is the new base to start from. Certainly, I'm not trying to get too. I don't know if I think I'm going in a whole bunch of directions right now.
That's the right vibe for this though. It's kind of going in a whole bunch of directions. I'm so thinking about how you're saying you go through these efforts to practice these things to make them second nature and stuff, and I think there's still always something that can put you off of that just enough to realize that it's not completely second nature. Something to make you realize that you need the work. And I say royally, but what I mean is me, very specifically, and to make sense of things. I always relate it back to martial arts, and we can go boxing very specifically, because practicing boxing, you work on your jab, and you get a nice tight jab, and you work on it, and you've done it so many times that now it's second nature, right? While you do it in sparring, you do it in fighting, and it looks great, and it's just, it keeps getting better and better and better, and it's your second nature. Well, there's gonna be one time where you get hit hard enough, or somebody starts countering that jab, something that you've never experienced and never planned for,
Right.
knocks you off of that, and all of a sudden, you know, instead of throwing this beautiful picturesque, you know, Floyd Mayweather jab, you're elbow out, friggin' flinching, trying to push the dude off you. You kind of go back to that panic state. Yeah. So there's always some kind of extenuating circumstance that can possibly pop up, but again, it's important to go through that and experience that. You know, for me right now, it's the world's very, very different, and if I take my time and I slow down and I breathe and I actually look and accept what's going on around me, I don't think it's that much different. It's a little scary right now, but it doesn't have to be what I'm making it.
Sure.
You know, it can be, I can slow down, I can go back to talking how I practice talking and feeling how I've practiced feeling, and doing all of these practice habits that I feel encourage me to be the best version of myself,
Sure.
without giving into the mayhem that's surrounding me.
Sure.
You know, and still finding that way to reset, to stay focused, to be purposeful. I can find my own flow, and because I know how it feels to be in the gym, I know how it feels to be in the library, I know how it feels to be up in the park sitting and reading a book, I know how it feels to be sitting down by the creek. I know all of these different things, all of these different places that I go to elicit certain feelings or certain states of flow mentally, you know, however I'm trying to connect with myself or whatever surroundings. I know how all those things feel, and through practice thought and through focused thought and through concerted effort, there's no reason I couldn't recreate these things and
Absolutely.
still find purpose in, you know, what's kind of a crazy situation.
Yeah,
you know?
100% right. You know, we've got known change coming. We've got known change, or change is already here, and we've got unknown change coming. And it seems like a lot, certainly all at once, but the same rules apply. You know what I mean? The same ideas apply.
Right.
As far as progression goes, you know, and the same understandings apply. And now more than ever.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, because it's easy to get lost and caught up in this whirlwind of memes and bullshit and real facts and scare tactics. But to slow down, you know, and go through your steps and whatever your personal individual steps are, you know, or whatever your personal individual mantras are, or breathing techniques, or places you need to go within yourself to regain control of self, and so you could be aware and apply what you do and who you are to the situation. I mean, those same rules apply, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for that. And the fact that now that we have nothing but time, in a sense, what better way to apply these opportunities in something you've always wanted to do? You know what I mean? Something you've always been passionate about, or something you never thought maybe would make you any money. But what else is it to do other than what you need? You know, what that little voice in the back of your head has always been telling you to go for or to try out.
All that stuff we never have time for.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely,
yeah, sure.
and I'm just delving into that myself a little bit as far as that sort of thought. You know, what do I want to try? I'm an artist. I write and record all the time, but you know what I've never taken the time to do was like understanding the recording and the engineering aspect of it.
Right. Sure.
You know, how beneficial would it be if I can now write, produce my own music, write and record myself, but then do it at a higher level.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's just one of many things that I would like to utilize this time for. I mean, I would love to start a, conversation underneath and just see what other people's, hobbies might be. You know, what they're thinking about getting into. You know, what they want to put their time and info, and energy into. And I want to see how those things come back to everybody.
Yeah.
Because I love to see it. I love to be a part of it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just a great opportunity for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, it's cool too because anytime you pick up a new hobby or really start diving into something that you've been curious about or you think you could be passionate about, or you were passionate about and you've lost touch with, there's always this huge burst of learning at the beginning. You learn so much, you accelerate so quickly, and there's so much excitement around it. Even diving into that can mentally be so beneficial for everybody right now, you know, especially as things, you know, approach a certain extent where at some point they're just going to tell us we're not allowed to leave our house for whatever amount of time.
Sure.
You know, very slowly we're kind of working to that, and you know, probably you see it, you know, happening in a couple places around the world and stuff.
Well, I mean, you even see it in the U.S.
Yeah.
You know, over out west, and you see curfews down in Jersey and stuff like that. And to be almost ahead of the curve in that sense, you know what I mean? To let it, you know, to understand and be aware that it's a possibility, and how it still doesn't change the idea or the rules. You know, it's kind of settling. You know, for me it is. It's calming.
Yeah. And that's I told you before we even started talking this morning that you know, being a little bit out of sorts, and I kind of hope to get a lot out of this conversation, man. But just listening to your perspective and understanding, you know, because a lot of this stuff, a lot of times we come in here, we've taken notes and we've studied certain topics, and we have specific things we want to talk about, we want to cover and stuff. But a lot of it too is just a very real, very genuine conversation that you know, that we are having. And so like today, coming in, the notes that you showed earlier are the only notes that we have in front of us right now. Just kind of a testament, again, slow down. But I mean, it is, I think it's a, you know, it's reassuring to me to, you know, to know that even though we've done this so many times, still, man, the fact that the conversation is there, it's for me, it's very much appreciated. And there's some weeks where I need this more, you know, more than I need the camera in front of us, and it just happens to be a great benefit that we can share this stuff with other people. Because I, you know, I'm not special. I'm not the only one that's a little freaked out. I'm not the only one that's out of sorts, you know. But this thought of being able to approach it with a little bit of vigor, because everybody has a book on their bookshelf they haven't read. Oh man, you know, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, three in front of me. Yeah, shit, man. I got a buddy of mine gave me a book for Christmas, and I still haven't even freaking unwrapped it yet. And that being said, I just bought 2 new books, you know, and so and shit is just piling up, and but there's no reason I can't read more. You know, there's no reason I shouldn't, and I'm excited to, because every time I open a book, I learn, and I get new insight and grow, you know. And I mean, there's so many things around the house that there's no reason that it can't be done, and the excuse is always, well, you know, I'm tired right now. Eventually I'll have the time to do it. And nothing it's a super big priority, but things that I can be excited about. And like you said, it's very calming to know that even if I'm stuck in the house, or, you know, just in Ellisburg within my, you know, within the confines of my property, there's still a lot to be learned and a lot to be gained. There's a lot of self-reflection, there's a lot of growth, and there's no reason that every interaction with, you know, people through whatever medium, you know, through social media, through YouTube, through whatever, just I'm calling and texting friends and stuff like that. There's a lot to be gained. There's a lot of excitement to still be had, and, you know, whatever happens. Eventually, whatever goes on over the next month, you know, in coming years or whatever, eventually it's just going to be a page in a history book. And that's all that, you know, all we can do is that, you know, it's the Stoic notion of do the best you can to be the best you can right now. And for me, worrying too much or getting too wrapped up in the, you know, socio-political dynamic that's going on, I don't know fucking anything about that. What am I doing? I'm wasting my time. I'm not going to have there's nothing I'm going to say to people that's going to change anybody's mind, influence anybody. I'm not going to have any impact on how this is controlled, and there's no reason I should, because I don't have the education, the foundation for it. But I do have the ability to talk to people and to be positive and encouraging and explorative and enriching, and encourage and cultivate, you know, self-growth and mutual growth, and, you know, offer some bit of solace, not only for now, but like solace that I've found through times before, and like you said, the rules don't change, the pattern doesn't change.
Still apply, man, and that's all this has ever been. Is you know, it's everything we talk has been or talk about has been an experience of a journey of our own.
Sure.
Both separately, largely separately, and you know, now together while you know, trying out a new hobby like this. And that's all it ever is, or it's all it ever was. And so now when we find new ways to apply that self-growth, you know, that's just more that can be shared in conversation, more that can be shared with you guys out there. And you know, and I'm just super appreciative of it because you probably, I'm not on Facebook that often. I'm not really putting out my views like that. And even sometimes, you know, I don't even, a lot of what we talked about today, even just being here and sitting down, slowing down, and genuinely having a convo about it, a lot of these thoughts I've just been putting together as of right now. That now I can, you know, take back with me, absorb the experience, go back through the conversation on here, but take that with me now and apply it to my new day to day. Because you're right. I mean, you know, change is here, change is coming, and you know, eventually there will be a new normal. And whatever that means. But you know, within those new confines, we still, you know, have honed this flow within chaos. You know what I mean? We are still constantly building our own individual structures within a larger structure. And to have our structures continually be intact within whatever changing form of the structure around us, I think, is the best, for me, idea of what freedom is, to be free, you know, in that way. So, you know, stuff like this, having a conversation, being able to share it, getting feedback, as always, is it's a momentous process. It's a continual thing, and it feels like growth constantly. Just as soon as we hit the on button, you know, it feels like growth.
Absolutely.
So I always appreciate it. Like I said, you know, thank you guys for tuning in. You know, down below in the comments, share with us some of your, you know, hobbies or things you've always wanted to try out, or maybe, you know, new projects and things you're working on underneath. We love to, you know, talk about the progression of it, see where you're at, and you know, I think we're gonna do the same. Honestly. Honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, we got all the time in the world.
All the time in the world
to continue to perpetuate and grow and have meaningful conversations. You know. And you know, for me, I think the biggest thing is remembering, you know, reminding myself, you know, my favorite mantra is that, you know, I'm not special. I'm not the only one that feels worried. You know, not the only one that's scared. Not the only one that's like, my structure fell apart. My structure within the structure that was giving me my flow state, you know, that fell apart. But it's not back to rock bottom. You know, I'm back to it's day one. You know, I gotta, from this foundation I build. You know, and I'm not the only one out there like that. I'm sure that probably resonates with a lot of people. Hopefully it did. You know, hopefully you know, what we talked about today kind of made sense. I got a tremendous amount just from listening to you talk, man.
Likewise, bro.
And the fact that, you know, we saw obviously a bunch of people are probably at home right now. A bunch of people have a little more availability. A bunch of people tuned in live watching this. I really appreciate that. It's nice to feel like, you know, we're part of something bigger. You know, people are feeling it. People want want to have the conversation, want to join in. So please do, guys. Please keep tuning in. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. Quinn's sitting down, opening up the studio today so we could come in and chat a little bit. It was cool. So that's what's so great about you guys all giving us this platform to reach you on, is that we can kind of go anywhere, kind of go with the flow. We're gonna adapt to that change as it comes, and still find a meaningful and a purposeful way to reach out, you know, and engage. So it's huge.
Awesome. And if there are anything you guys ever want to discuss or hear us discuss, let us know. Should it, you know, send it in the comments or just, you know, direct message.
Absolutely.
However, man, we appreciate it all.
Thank you, guys. Be safe out there. We'll talk to you guys soon.